custody after a Saudi gunman opens fire at a naval air for the Fox News Alert 6. We are back with a Fox News Alert 6. Saudi Arabian nationals are taken into custody after a Saudi gunman opens fire at a naval air station in Pensacola, Florida. 3 people were killed, at least 8 others injured. The FBI now looking into a possible Islamic terror link.
And the gunman, identified as Mohammed Saeed al-Shamrani, was an aviation student and a lieutenant in the Saudi Arabian Air Force. While authorities have yet to say this was an act of terror, Site Intelligence posted anti-American messages from what might be the shooter's Twitter account.
Right, so a lot of questions about him. Several reports also suggest that the 6 detained were possibly filming the shooting. Saudi officials have condemned the attack. Pete, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, when you hear these reports that potentially 3 of these Saudis were also filming the attack, we've also got a number of credible reports that this guy put out a mini manifesto over Twitter celebrating Osama bin Laden. So when you look at a student named Mohammed from Saudi Arabia who turns a gun on fellow students who are supposed to be training him, and there's indications of radical Islamic motivation, sure walks like a terror attack, probably is. We're going to get more details. The question is, did he give off signs? Did fellow students recognize changes? Or did he go there from the beginning with a mission to commit a terror attack? Those are the things we're looking into today.
And we've seen Florida Governor Ron DeSantis take a little bit of different approach than President Trump in regard to Saudi Arabia. This is what he had to say.
One of the things that I talked to the president about is, given that this was a foreign national in the employ of a foreign service, and there'll be time to do this, but obviously the government of Saudi Arabia needs to make things better for these victims. Lives were saved because of the response of people both in uniform with the Navy, in uniform with the Escambia County, and so in one of the darkest days, I think, of the base's history, you still saw some of that bravery and grit come out, and even people who had been wounded themselves thinking about others and what could be done to save others.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And in fact, the national chair of the 9/11 Families and Survivors United for Justice Against Terror, remember, they've been suing the Saudi government to get money for the victims of the 9/11 terror attacks. They have now put out a statement saying, quote, "I am sick to my stomach that our military families are suffering the same pain that my family had to endure 18 years ago. The 9/11 family community continues to battle the Saudis in court, not only for the justice we deserve, but to force them to stop spreading the hateful radical Islamism that drives evil attacks like this. We will continue to fight and demand the whole truth about the Saudis and 9/11. That also means our Department of Justice needs to stop protecting the kingdom by hiding information and invoking state secrets." So you see a tough statement there from the 9/11 families who've been battling the Saudi government for a long time. And look, the president spoke directly to the king of Saudi Arabia yesterday. He wanted to get answers, but then came out and gave a statement that said, look, the Saudi people feel badly and they expressed their condolences, but I think there obviously are others who want more than just that.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia's going to have to own up to this. They've got a lot of splaining to do, you might say. And the reason these families are so frustrated is because Saudi Arabia has played a double game for decades. The funding radical Islamism around the globe. It's documented. Madrasas around the globe, funded by Saudi Arabia.
Absolutely.
While the king and others try to make it look like they're friends of the West, for only so long can you get away with that. And the details of this will be important.
Well, and it'll be interesting, too, to see if President Trump's tone on Saudi Arabia changes, because I have to imagine there's going to be increased pressure on the Saudi
and they're trying to build
government.
pressure on Iran, too, which Saudi Arabia is a part of. So there's a lot of pieces.
Very challenging pieces.
Yep. Turning now to a few more headlines.
This is what happens whenever you have corrupt people covering up corrupt people. And in exchange, we have a variety of things that has went wrong that now the American people are just now starting to open their eyes up to. And it's the same thing as what I said yesterday on the same video pertaining to the same subject, that these Saudi Arabian nationalists have been detained for questioning. If the truth be known, they was probably planning something even greater or bigger than this. And why would they have been out there trying to document this? Let's listen to this one more time, because this is pretty bizarre.
The judge.
This is pretty bizarre.
Survivors United for Justice Against Terror. Remember, they've been suing the Saudi government to get money for the victims of the 9/11 terror attacks. They have now put out a statement saying, quote, "I am sick to my stomach that our military families are suffering the same pain that my family had to endure 18 years ago. The 9/11 family community continues to battle the Saudis in court, not only for the justice we deserve, but to force them to stop spreading the hateful radical Islamism that drives evil attacks like this. We will continue to fight and demand the whole truth about the Saudis and 9/11. That also means our Department of Justice needs to stop protecting the kingdom by hiding information."
Stop protecting the kingdom. Invoking state secrets. You know, whenever it comes to the American people being collateral damage, on account of the richest of the rich, the powerfulest of the powerful, it's time that America come clean on just exactly how 9/11 ever got this far out of hand to the point of it destroying as many lives as it has destroyed, and even to this day is still embarking upon to people's lives in a devastating way. Those who breathed in all that toxic chemicals and smoke and dust and etc. during the time that those buildings was attacked. It goes beyond bizarre. It's shameful that certain people in this country knew just exactly who it was and what it was, and chose not to go after the true perpetrators that actually done this. These people are the axis of evil. There is no other entity that's any eviler than the Saudi Arabian people over there pertaining to the kingdom.
And invoking state secrets. So you see a tough statement there from the 9/11 families who've been battling the Saudi government for a long time. And look, the president spoke directly to the king of Saudi Arabia yesterday. He wanted to get answers, but then came out and gave a statement that said, look, the Saudi people feel badly and they expressed their condolences, but I think there obviously are others who want more than just that.
Yes.
Not only what they done to the journalist that we know now, especially Turkey, has proof that the Saudis went in there and premeditated his death.
Saudi Arabia's going to have to own up to this. They've got a lot of explaining to do, you might say. And the reason these families are so frustrated is because Saudi Arabia has played a double game for decades. The funding radical Islamism around the globe. It's documented. Madrasas around the globe, funded by Saudi Arabia.
It's documented around the world that the Saudi Arabian government has funded known active terrorists around the world.
While the king and others try to make it look like they're friends of the West, for only so long can you get away with that. And the details of this will be important.
Well, and it'll be interesting, too, to see if President Trump's tone on Saudi Arabia changes, because I have to imagine there's going to be increased pressure on the Saudi
and they're trying to build
government.
pressure on Iran, too, which Saudi Arabia is a part of. So there's a lot of pieces.
Challenging pieces.
Yep. Turning now to a few more headlines. A judge is expected.
Wow.
$99 sale. Buy one room, get carpet.
Wow, wow, wow.
Over removing President Trump from office becomes all the more likely.
Today, I am asking our chairman to proceed with articles of impeachment.
Democrats make a historic move as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi calls on party leaders to start drafting articles of impeachment against President Trump. The House Judiciary Committee could approve them as early as next week, setting up a whole House vote before Christmas. Solidifying the Democrats' case, a trio of constitutional law experts who faced the Judiciary Committee on Wednesday.
President Trump has committed impeachable high crimes and misdemeanors, by corruptly abusing the office of the presidency.
When President Trump invited, indeed demanded, foreign involvement in our upcoming election, he struck at the very heart of what makes this a republic to which we pledge allegiance.
If what we're talking about is not impeachable, then nothing is impeachable.
Meanwhile, the Republican sole witness so far said Democrats are rushing to judgment.
Impeachments require a certain period of saturation and maturation. That is, the public has to catch up. I'm not prejudging what your record would show, but if you rush this impeachment, you're going to leave half the country behind.
The White House refused to participate in Wednesday's hearing with an attorney for President Trump, calling it an irretrievably broken process, although he did not rule out future cooperation. A report released Tuesday made the Intelligence Committee's case against the president. Among the new revelations, phone calls between the president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, and the Office of Management and Budget, the agency that oversaw the disbursement of military aid meant for Ukraine, and calls between Congressman Devin Nunes, the top Republican on the Intelligence Committee, and Lev Parnas, Giuliani's now indicted business associate. Republicans preempted the Democrats' report with their own, calling the inquiry an unfair, abusive, and partisan process. The president spent part of the week in London with NATO allies, but couldn't resist commenting on matters back home.
The word impeachment is a dirty word. There's no crime whatsoever, and they know it. They're going to have a tremendous loss in 2020.
But Pelosi said the decision to move forward isn't political or personal.
Do you hate the president, Madam Speaker? Because
I don't hate anybody. I don't have was raised in a Catholic house. We don't hate anybody, not anybody in the world. This is about the Constitution of the United States and the facts that lead to the president's violation of his oath of office.
While President Trump races for an impeachment vote stateside, Giuliani is back in Ukraine. He's meeting with Ukrainian prosecutors to uncover misdeeds connected to former Vice President Joe Biden. Claims U.S. intelligence agencies say have no merit.
Heidi Presbola, thank you. President Trump pushing back after NATO leaders made fun of him in London.
Boy, oh boy.
Got an idea for an invention, but don't.
Illiterate. 2/3 of the people in our juvenile delinquency system are functionally illiterate, and about 2/3 of the people in our federal criminal system or prison system are functionally illiterate. If you take away the money of the wealthiest people in the United States, that's not going to solve the illiteracy problem. We've got to deal with education. You've got to deal with problems at the bottom, and taking away money from the top isn't going to solve those problems overnight.
You're so right, and I think that as a country in the U.S. in education, what are we, like 28? Or 30 or some crazy number. I'm talking about middle school and grammar school, not university, obviously.
Well, the literacy rate in the United States is not in the top 10 in the world. We are not as high in literacy as we should be, and we have a K-12 system that is not working very well. It's not going to work better all of a sudden if we take money away from the top people in the Forbes list or something like that.
And this is what I want to hear on the campaign trail, though, by the way. I want to hear about education.
Education is the thing that enabled me to come from very modest circumstances. My parents didn't graduate from high school, and I wanted to graduate from high school and college and graduate school, and that's the dream that many people have, to do better than their parents. And parents now are worried that their children won't be able to do better than them because of many of the problems we have in our country. But right now, the great American dream is what has driven me and you and others to try to get and make something of ourselves.
You know, we played Taylor Swift coming in and going out there, David, because here's an artist who wants to own her masters, own what she created, but she signed a deal not to do it, and now she's saying, well, you know what, it's Carlisle's fault.
Well, Taylor Swift is a great artist, and I enjoy her music, and I listen to it all the time, and I continue to hope that she'll perform great music. When you do interviews of me, you don't own the masters here.
You're
it's
right.
owned by the company that you work for. And this is very true in many different businesses. It's true in the music business. In that particular case, I do think there'll be a resolution of that in the near future. Hopefully she can continue to do very good music, but it's something that is more complicated than my being able to resolve it right here.
At $9.99. The inquiry's next phase.
The laughable hypocrisy. Not close, and we may do things having to do with trade. It's not fair that they get U.S. protection and they're not putting up their money, and they're really, I call them, I use that term, delinquent. That's exactly what they are.
Joining me now, Christopher Dickey, World News editor with The Daily Beast and MSNBC contributor. Christopher, good morning. Let's jump right in. Is the president's threat realistic, and are European allies even concerned?
you know, if we had heard more of that quote, he went on to say, maybe they should pay back dues. They're delinquent. Maybe we should look at all the money that they haven't paid over the years and start telling them they should pay that. So what was he talking about? He was talking about NATO members as if they were paying dues like they would pay at the Mar-a-Lago Country Club. That's not the way it works. This is a question of whether they pay on their own defense programs 2% of their gross domestic product. And what Trump really wants is for them to spend 2% of their GDP buying arms from the United States. That's his real agenda. That's not going to happen. And what is happening is that President Macron here in France and others are saying, yes, we will increase our defense spending. We'll increase our cooperation to defend Europe, but we're not necessarily just going to be underwriting the U.S. and its efforts to lead NATO. The fundamental problem, Corey, though, is nobody is sure anymore what NATO is for. What is it defending against? What is the strategy? Those questions have not been resolved.
So what is your read on the fact that Trudeau actually doubled down when asked to comment on that viral video?
Well, you know, Trudeau was basically just joking with friends about how Trump would take over what was supposed to be a photo op and turn it into an impromptu press conference. That completely screws up everybody's schedule, but what it does for Trump is make him the center of attention again and again and again. I think he had 3 or 4 meetings that day, and on every one of them, he gave like an impromptu press conference. So everything ran late, and Trudeau was joking about that. You know, he takes 40 minutes off the top, says Trudeau. Then Trump really enjoyed his comeback, his own comeback, calling Trudeau two-faced, but at the same time saying he really liked Trudeau. So it was one of those typically Trumpian things.
Now, before the president left a trail of brutal headlines behind, he did engage in a very public slight of the French president. Take a look.
They're mostly from Europe, and some of the countries are agreeing. I have not spoken to the president about that. Would you like some nice ISIS fighters? Yeah, I can give them to you. You can take everyone you want. Let's be serious. I heard that President Macron said NATO is brain dead. I think that's very insulting to a lot of different forces, including a man that does a very good job at running NATO. You just can't go around making statements like that about NATO. It's very disrespectful.
A lot to delineate here. What's going on here, Christopher?
Sounds like war, war, and more war. And we're going to sell weapons to enhance war. This is all about war. Not peace, not grace, not love, but war. Wow. And to think that we just got through having military gunned down by the Saudis. On the eve of impeaching a president. Good luck to all of us. Shalom.